What's up, everybody? In today's video, I'm going to be talking about the very first time that I ever did DMT. Now, before I get into the trip report, I just want to say that this video is mainly brought about by one of my subscribers that commented on my most recent video, basically saying, hey, where's your psychedelic content at? And it reminded me that on the sidelines I have psychedelic viewers that are sitting and waiting for more psychedelic content to be released on my channel. So to you, I don't remember your name, but thank you, bro. You inspired this video. But yeah, the first time I ever did DMT. I don't know if I've shared the story of this or not. I think I've talked about it on my describing DMT trips with my brother video, which we did a while ago. But I haven't made a video on it specifically, I don't think. So the first time I ever did DMT, funny enough, well, this was probably close to 3 years ago now. The first time I ever did it, I dabbed it. I haven't ever dabbed DMT since, which is pretty funny because that's considered to be the most intense route of administration of DMT, is to pour it like in a banger, you know, like you would with dabs. But yeah, the first time I did it, I dabbed it, and I had a little rig and a huge quartz banger, you know, because I was into dabbing concentrates and stuff like that. But yeah, I acquired the DMT and decided that I was going to do it. And I remember I was sitting in my room on my bed, and I heated the banger up, and I had the DMT. I didn't weigh it either. This was an eyeball dose, and I don't recommend doing that, but I had faith in myself. But I had a little piece of folded paper, and I had the DMT in there. And I heated the banger up, and when I heated it up, I let it cool down, because I knew DMT vaporizes at a lower temperature and you can burn it really easily. So I let it cool down for quite a while, and then when I thought it was ready, I went at it, and simultaneously, upon breathing in, I poured the DMT in as well. And doing this, if you know how a banger works, there's the banger, and then the piece the air comes through down into the rig. Well, when I was breathing in and poured the DMT into the banger, it didn't fall down into the banger. It shot right through the air tube down into my rig and melted on the inside of my banger, and I didn't get any hit, you know. So I literally messed up the first time, and I had to completely retry. Like, I didn't even get a hit. So I had to reheat it, redose, put more back in the paper, and this time, once I let it cool down, I was sitting on my bed, and instead of breathing and pouring it in, I poured it in, capped it, and then started breathing. And this was the delivery method. This sent me. So once it was cooled down enough to where I thought it would be good, I took the paper, poured it in, and quickly put the cap on it, and then, just like you would with a dab, I started inhaling and turning the cap, the terp turner, as it's called amongst the cannabis community. And no joke, I'm seeing the DMT juice twisting around in my banger, vaporizing, and I can feel it. It's burning my throat. It's like really harsh, but I can keep going because, you know, I had been listening to Terrence a lot, and this is going to tie in a little bit. But yeah, I had been listening to Terrence McKenna a lot, and he talked about how if you're used to smoking hash, which I was, it's not as hard to ingest lungfuls of DMT smoke. So it was harsh, but I was able to hold it. So I took the dab in, and I forgot to mention, I had Around the World in a Tea Days by Spangle playing, which was actually inspired to me to do by a specific YouTuber that smoked DMT to that very song. Shout out to Icarus 480. But yep, I had that song playing, right on the drop of the song, I took my DMT dab, and once I got the whole hit in, or as much as I could, I put the banger down, or the rig down, careful to not tip it over or like lose consciousness and drop it on me or whatever. So I put the banger down and laid down in my bed. And what proceeded to happen next was literally like exactly what Terence McKenna described it to be for about the next 30 seconds to a minute or so. So at first nothing was happening. I was still holding in my huge lungful of DMT. Nothing was happening, and then all of a sudden I started to feel like I was incredibly heavy. Like all of a sudden the whole universe just weighed down in on me. And I remember very specifically, I was laying down like this, and you can't see my legs, but my ankles were crossed. And I'm laying down, and all of a sudden it felt like the corners of two huge skyscrapers came and sat the edges down on my shoulders, pinning my shoulders. And a rod shot through my ankles, both of my ankles because they're crossed, and locked my legs to the bed. So the fucking skyscraper's sitting on my shoulders and a rod through my ankles. I'm locked in my bed now. And I'm starting to realize, okay, something's happening. And the next thing I remember happening was I started to feel like I wasn't breathing and that I couldn't breathe and that I was out of breath. And this is where it ties into what Terence McKenna talks about. Terence says, it'll feel like all the oxygen has been pumped out of the room. And I never really knew what he meant by this, but all of a sudden it was like I was laying in bed like, like I had to manually take breath, like there's no oxygen available at all, and I'm like gasping for air, there was no air in the room, and it felt like I had to breathe myself. I wasn't autonomously breathing. At that point where I started to feel like I couldn't breathe and I needed to, all right, focus, I opened my eyes, and I remember everything around me looked like I was on LSD. I was like, holy shit, this looks like LSD. It looks like I'm on acid right now. I got all these tapestries around me, and they were all fucking moving and getting in depth and just the beautiful, crazy psychedelic shit. And I'm looking at that like, oh my God, this looks like LSD. And I still am feeling, this is like all happening immediately. It's still only 30, 45 seconds into the experience. And I am still feeling like I can't breathe. And I know this experience is way more intense than what I'm experiencing right now. So I let go. I did at the time what I thought was let go, where I just, okay, and I let this happen. This is supposed to happen. I'm supposed to feel like I'm dying. All right, yeah, here's the DMT trip. Let's have the DMT trip. I had no clue what to expect. I had never, it's like it's harder for me to let go now that I've done DMT, rather than that first time when it was just like, okay, so this is DMT. All right, but yep, felt like I couldn't breathe. I had opened my eyes and was having LSD-like visuals, and at that point, the intensity was building so much that I let go. And at that point, I shut my eyes again. And when I shut my eyes, this is when I began to see the inner DMT world rushing towards me. So what I saw was, right when I shut my eyes, I saw this rapid, all this crazy movement. And once I focused in on what I was seeing, what was happening was I was racing down these hallways, these tight cubicle hallways, and they were made of like mossy bricks, like not normal bricks, like rock granite bricks, but moss all over it and shit. I was racing through these hallways, up, down, left, right, in, out, all these different directions. very fast, like I was going somewhere. And I remember at the ends of the walls, right when I was about to make a turn, at the ends of the walls, there were all these faces. There were all these like Aztec looking faces, like masks that were looking at me and doing all these grotesque facial expressions, and I kept seeing them like coming out of, like I said, they were at the ends of the walls when I was about to make a turn in the hallway. So I'm racing through this fucking brick hallway, seeing these Aztec god faces, and they all look laughing and angry and smiling and grossed out and just all this crazy looking stuff. If you know, you know. And while I'm watching that, you know, all of a sudden, it looks like this ball from out of nowhere to the right of my vision. It's all black over here besides this thing I'm looking at. And this ball of black, for some reason I was able to pick out this ball of black out of the blackness. It came spinning up to me from way off in the distance, off to the right, and came right up next to me. And once it got up next to me, I realized it was huge. And what it was like in the blackness, peripheral vision, I saw the big fat Buddha. Like the I don't know his actual name. Not this guy, the fat Buddha, you know what I mean? The big Buddha belly guy. I saw that guy. And that gave me the feeling, it shocked me, it startled the hell out of me, because it felt like somebody appeared right there, and somebody was right there. And I've had this, you know, I've had that feeling many times on DMT now, but that was the very first time it had ever happened. I felt like somebody was there, and I gasped and opened my eyes, and I'll actually show you real quick. This tapestry right here, which is looking up through a bunch of trees. Really cool tapestry. It fell down, so I haven't put it up back yet. But that tapestry right there was up above my bed at the time. And when I gasped and opened my eyes because I was scared of this, or was shocked and startled by this big Buddha guy, I looked at that tapestry and all the branches were coming down into the room, like full on out, like 3D, like out of the tapestry and coming down towards me to the point where like I could have probably fucking reached up and grabbed it. But I just sat there in complete awe, looking at this tapestry disconnecting and coming down through my fucking room and doing all this crazy shit. And that was really the last like impactful visual that I remember. And then after that, it was more this really weird phenomenon where I was laying there going, did I just trip on DMT? And then I would go back into this inner world of thought and vision, and then I would come back and go, did I just trip on DMT? Was that just a DMT trip? And then I'd go back into it. And this happened at least 3 times. And I was laying on my bed for over 30 minutes. That first story that I just told you was the initial trip. And then those times where I was coming in and out, you know, slowly coming back, it was as if I couldn't even grasp that I had experienced something. I was like laying there in the moment, like, did I just trip on DMT? Did I just have a DMT trip? And eventually, this inner world wore off, and I was just laying in my bed, And like I said, this was roughly 30 minutes after I had taken the DMT. I remember I had got up and I walked out into the where the wood stove is, and I'm looking out the window, and everything I just told you guys a minute ago, all that is racing through my head. And I'm like, you know, I'm still thinking, did I have a trip? And as well as thinking that, everything I just told you was running through my head as well. And I'm going, that was my fucking trip. That was the DMT trip. It was like I had trouble processing what the trip even was and if it even happened. It was very weird. But yeah, like I said, everything I just told you guys was what was running through my head after that experience of, did I just trip on DMT? And then going back into it and then coming back out just to ask the same thing again. It was a very interesting first experience. But I think that's really it for this video. Or for that trip, because that's all I can really remember. It was a while ago. All I can say is, I mean, not intentionally, but I never dabbed DMT again. My brother has, and interestingly enough, he said it was very intense, more so than the normal smoking methods that we use. But yeah, I've never dabbed DMT since, and nor have I had an experience like that since. I've had plenty of bizarre experiences on smoking it out of the pipe, but that dabbed DMT experience was definitely different and like exclusive to itself. It was very almost cliche and like archetypal to what everybody else talks about, but I saw it real time in it. It's like, okay, I see why everybody's talking about the same thing now. You know. But yeah, that's it for this video. To the guy that commented on my last video asking or telling me he likes my psychedelic content more than my spiritual or philosophical content, thank you. This video was basically inspired by you, and any others of you out there that would like to see not DMT content, just psychedelic content, you know, let me know something you might specifically want to hear, you know, or my opinions on a certain thing, you know, because I have plenty of, like I was telling this guy in the last video, I have plenty of hazy, partially memorable trips that I can talk about, and most of which I did talk about in a almost 2-hour-long video that I made with my brother, where we were just like spouting off different DMT trips that we could remember. But no, I could make videos on those. I just feel like since it's not as in-depth of a memory and I'm not able to as dramatically and passionately describe it, I don't feel as driven to make a trip report about it, because I just feel like it would be kind of stale, boring, and slow going, you know. But this trip definitely deserves its own video. So if you watched, thank you so much for watching. And I will be back with more videos here in the future, be it psychedelic content, nature content, philosophical, spiritual content, who knows with me. But nevertheless, I'll be back. Thank you guys so much for watching.